Hi everybody, it's Harvard lawyer Lee. Well, today we have huge news in the Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard case. We are getting news that Amber Heard has fired her attorney Elaine Bredehoft, but she's keeping her attorney Ben Rottenborn. In addition, she's also hiring brand new appellate counsel. So today I want to answer 3 questions and then talk about a 4th one. First, I want to talk about what's up with Amber firing Elaine. The second question I want to talk about is, what about these new appellate counsel? Is that unusual to hire new appellate counsel? And the third question I want to answer is, does it change things for the appeal? And then fourthly, I want to talk about how exactly is Amber Heard going to afford these brand new lawyers? On this channel, when life intersects with law, we talk. And while we're talking, please be sure to hit that like button for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe. I'd love to see you back in more videos. Be sure to follow me too on Twitter at LawyerLeeW. Before we even talk, what's your opinion? Do you think that Amber Heard should have fired Elaine Bredehoft long ago? Do you think it's just now the right time? Or do you think she still shouldn't be firing her? She needs to stick with the attorney she's had through the case. Really curious, what's your opinion? The first thing I want to answer is it unusual for a client to fire an attorney right here after the trial and before appeal? The answer is yes, it is unusual. It's certainly not unheard of, but it is unusual. Most of the time, the same lawyer who did the trial does the appeal. That may or may not always be the best idea, but it's the most cost-effective idea. So in the majority of cases, that's the way it works, because when you think about all of the information that the trial attorney has, days or weeks or even months of trial, that's all inside their heads. And they got that information plus all of the stuff that went before trial, the arguments, the motions in limine, all the conferences, the discovery. Then they got all the conferences up at the bench during the trial. They know all of that, and no one else does. So taking all of that information and giving it to an appellate lawyer takes time, and it takes money, because you have to pay that lawyer to sit there and read through the transcript or to talk at length with the trial attorney to understand what happened so that they fully get it before they write the appellate brief. It's also unusual in that you usually want your trial counsel to stick around for the appeal because they have all that great information and you want them to be able to pass it to the appellate lawyers. The third reason why this is unusual is that Amber Heard kept Ben Rottenborn. If she had fired both of them, then you could argue, well, she's just hiring an appellate team. She just wants people who are focused on the appeal, not the trial, and it's too expensive to have 2 sets of attorneys. But she didn't do that. She kept Ben and she fired Elaine. Now, Ben Rottenborn did decently at trial, in my opinion, and he especially did well, I thought, on the second cross-examination of Johnny Depp in the rebuttal case. I don't think, though, that he can get too comfortable here, because the fact that Amber has fired Elaine, even though she's keeping Ben around for the appeal, I would suspect she's going to completely change her entire team if she goes back to trial in this case. If she wins a new trial, I'd be willing to bet she hires entirely new lawyers. And as for Elaine not being part of the appeal, I really don't think there is any other way you can take it. If it had been both Elaine and Ben, you could argue maybe it was a cost-cutting measure, maybe not a great idea, but at least there was a reason for it. She didn't want to pay 2 sets of attorneys, and she wanted to focus on the appeal. But with her keeping Ben and not Elaine, I don't think there's any way to see it other than a statement by Amber that she doesn't feel comfortable with Elaine working on the appeal or handling her new trial. The second question I want to answer is it unusual to hire appellate counsel? Well, the answer is, if you look at sheer numbers, yeah, it's unusual. It's less than 50%, but it's not unusual for a large case like this. In a large case, it's pretty common to hire appellate counsel because they have a different perspective and usually kind of a different skill set. I clerked for an appellate court, and one of the things I noticed was that some of the best trial lawyers did not make the best appellate lawyers. A very few lawyers have skills on both sides of that, but most of them probably are better at one or the other. They're better at trials or they're better at appeals, but not both. And so it makes sense, especially in a big case, to hire someone who will handle the appeal. A lot of big firms have appellate departments. The third question I want to answer is, what does it mean for the appeal now that Amber Heard has hired new lawyers? And the answer is, it does change things. It does make a difference. And to understand why, you have to look at who she hired. Amber hired David Alexrod and J. Ward Brown, who are known as First Amendment lawyers who defended the New York Times against a defamation case by Sarah Palin. That means that Amber Heard is probably going to focus her appeal more on the First Amendment issues and less on some of the other things that might have been more fact-based. The problem for lawyers when they appeal is that they're given just a limited number of pages or words that they can use, and they have to fit all of the arguments they want to make into that limited space. So sometimes they have to pick and choose. You might want to make 7 arguments, but you may not be able to do that. So in this case, the fact that Amber Heard hired First Amendment lawyers means that they will probably focus more on the issues related to the First Amendment and less on the other issues. For example, in her motion for new trial, Amber Heard argued that one of the jurors was on there by stealth, that this was a juror not actually called for jury duty. Well, that's less of something that's in the bailiwick of First Amendment lawyers, and so it moves lower to the list of the things that they'll argue. Amber Heard also said that the jury verdict was inconsistent, that it was inconsistent for the jury to say that she owed Johnny Depp $10 million plus $5 million in punitives, reduced to $350, while simultaneously saying that Johnny Depp owed her $2 million. Now, that argument also moves to the bottom of the pile. But the arguments that come to the top are the arguments about the First Amendment. For example, Amber Heard's argument that the First Amendment bars defamation by implication. I'll link the video I did about her motion for new trial if you're wondering what defamation by implication is. Also, Amber made the argument that when she retweeted the op-ed with its headline, she wasn't adopting the op-ed's headline. That argument also will probably make the appeal. The fourth question, which is probably also burning in your minds, is how is she going to pay for these brand new appellate lawyers? Unfortunately, I have no idea. I don't know how she's going to manage it. What we know is that Elaine Bredehoft told the media when she did her tour after the trial that Amber didn't have the money to pay Johnny. So we don't know where she'll get the money to pay these attorneys. Now, we know that insurance companies were paying for some of the legal fees up until now. And it's typical for an insurance company that's paying for the fees for the trial to also pay for the fees for the appeal. But in this case, we don't really know whether that will happen because at least one of the insurance companies is arguing it shouldn't have to pay anything at all because of the fact that Amber Heard was found to have intentionally acted with actual malice. And they say, we don't cover that. When that happens, we're out. We don't cover it. So the truth is, I can't answer the question. I don't know how she's going to pay for that. It's a good question, though. Please be sure to like and subscribe and follow me at Lawyer Lee W on Twitter.